Welcome to the Time Simplicity demo. What we're looking at here is the login screen. This screen would be used by both managers and employees. A username, a password, and a company code is required for logging on. The first screen that we're logged into here is as a manager. So the blue bars going across the screen are alerts for the manager, and these are only 3 of several that might be available here. We have schedule change requests, preference change requests, and invalid schedules. The schedule change requests would come if an employee had requested to either drop or pick up a shift. The preference change request would show up if an employee had changed their preferences on when they liked to work, didn't like to work, or couldn't work. And review invalid schedules would only populate if an employee is terminated and they had been scheduled onto future shifts. Those shifts would now become invalid, and the manager would need to determine if those shifts needed to be applied to another employee or they could just be deleted. Across the top are your various drop-down menus. We're going to start with Employee. So we're going to go ahead and click Employee, and this is going to give you a list of all the employees in the system. When we select an employee, you'll see that there are multiple tabs across. The first tab, the Demographics tab, is their basic employee information. The employee ID is their number from payroll. Then we can have the first, middle initial, and last name, mobile phone number and carrier, which is required if you're going to use SMS alerts, an email if you're going to send email alerts, and then who can see this particular employee's information. This is actually selectable by the employee in the employee portal. They can choose everyone in the company, only workgroup associates, or only people who are doing the schedule. We can have a minimum and maximum number of hours per week, a number of shifts, standard shift length, address, a seniority ranking, gender if that's required, and then the default time zone. The reason we would collect an address is if you have multiple locations across a city or a state, we would look at the zip code of the employee, and whoever is the closest to the position that's open would be ranked higher in the who can work this list than the employee that was further away. Under the employee rules, you can see again we have several tabs across the section here. Employee status is going to tell you if this employee is active or inactive. You could have multiple lines of history here if this is a seasonal employee who comes back year after year. You can put an effective date and an expiration date. If you have an expiration date that is near future, it actually won't let you schedule past that expiration date. The employee work groups is going to show you which work groups that person can work in. They can have multiple locations. In this case, you can see that Megan's homework group is Hilliard, and then she has 2 secondary locations of 2nd Street and Ashland. You can set up individual employee templates. I do not have one set up for this employee. And we can have employee schedule rules. If this employee can manage other employees or work the scheduling system, you would select the Manager Rules tab, click this checkbox, and then they would have the Manager Schedule role. And you could add which work groups they had scheduling capabilities over. If they do not manage other employees, this box would be unchecked, and they wouldn't be able to access the system from a manager perspective. Assigned codes indicates the positions that this particular employee is allowed to work. In Megan's case, she can work as a barista, a cashier, or she can work in the food counter. We also have the capability of adding certifications. So in this case, we might need food handlers permits. We could also add this for pretty much any industry that needs a certification for a position. So for instance, in nursing, you might need to differentiate between an RN and a CNA. You may need to indicate that someone is first aid certified or can do CPR, or maybe that they have a certification to work a particular piece of equipment, or they can drive a forklift, for instance. So the certifications are something that we can add, and we can tie those back to shifts and make it required to work a particular shift that you have a particular certification. So this is going to allow you to narrow down your best fit candidates to people that can truly work that shift. The Notes tab is for internal notes. The employee cannot see those. Schedule preferences can be set from the employee's side, or if you're logged in as a manager, you can edit the preferences yourself. So the active preferences, which is the first tab we saw, is indicating that Megan does not like to work Sunday evenings or Tuesday evenings. She cannot work after 3 p.m. on Wednesday, but she really likes to work the morning shift on Fridays and Saturdays. So where this comes into play is when you as a manager are working the schedule. If someone has said that they cannot work a particular time, it will not let you schedule them during that time. If you're trying to schedule them on a time where they've said they don't like to work, it will alert you that the person does not like to work at that particular time. On the Notifications tab, you'll see what is set up for each individual employee. They have the option to go in through the employee portal and change how they get their notifications. You can, as a manager, require that one or the other of these be on for any of these particular options. So in this case, Megan is going to get an email notification when the schedule is published, if a shift has been added, modified, or removed from her particular schedule, if there has been a schedule change or remove request decision. So if she has asked to pick up or drop a shift and you have decided either in her favor or not, she will get a notification. If she has put in a preference change request and you have decided to approve or decline that, she will get a notification if an open shift becomes available that she is capable of working. And then the time off requests would actually typically come from your time and attendance system. They wouldn't necessarily be standalone here, so you may or may not see those. In this case, she also has a text alert enabled for her daily schedule reminder. She has this coming out at 6 o'clock every morning to tell her what her schedule is for that day. And again, as the manager, you can choose that one or the other of these always be enabled for each of these particular kinds of notifications. Since we have Megan set up also as a manager, she will also get notifications if a schedule drop or swap pickup shift has been sent in, if a preference change request has been received, and again, if a time off has been received, although this would typically come from the time and attendance system. The username and password tab will allow the manager to come in and change the username for the employee. The default is the employee code, but this could be changed to something alphanumeric as well. And then they can either come in and reset or change the password for the employee. Okay, the next place we're going to go is up to the scheduler. So this here is the primary scheduling screen, and most of the information here is more or less customizable, and additionally it can be user specific. So each manager that's logging in can make this screen look basically the way they would rather see it, although that is typically different between departments rather than managers in the same department. They can customize the columns here. Position, shift, and name are the defaults, but they can add in a max hours, they can add in the total hours for that particular employee, and they can add in work group hours as I have set here. There are a few other things they can add just depending on how complex the setup is. So let's cover the options here at the top of the scheduler so we can understand what we're looking at. You have your views here. In this case it's set to weekly, but we can go all the way out to a 63-day view if you're scheduling out a long time in the future. If you have filters set up, you would be able to select a filter here. This little box here that says Home Work Group, if this box is checked, this is only going to show me the people who have this particular work group as their home assignment. If I uncheck this, you'll notice that I get a couple of employees that have a little flag next to their name. That means that this is not their home department or their home location, but they are allowed to work here. So if you have shared resources across different departments or locations, this is a great way to understand which employees are from a different home group. So we'll go ahead and leave that checked so we're just working with people who normally work at this location. This options button is where the managers would come in and change what they're seeing. It can be as basic as what's their screen resolution so that what they're looking at on the screen fits inside of their box properly. They can see what is displayed inside of this schedule. So in my case, I have position and then I have the actual schedule name. So I have assistant manager, which is the position, and then I have assistant manager AM, which is the schedule name. And then if you have it spread out over multiple weeks, then we'll go to this small first row style. So it's going to show the position, but it'll be, a little bit smaller and tidier looking. You can decide how you want to see the listing order of the employees. And several other things you can select here. The options for the columns will allow you to turn on or off the individual columns that you're seeing displayed here. The next button over, you can see that this is kind of grayed out. That means that this schedule has already been published. If it has not been published, this button would be dark blue like the options button is. I have an option here to show employee templates. If employees have individual schedule templates, I can look at charts of the information that's on my screen. And I also have the option to pin schedules or unpin schedules. If you don't have pinning schedules option on, neither of these icons would actually show. The work group is the various work groups that you have. These could be departments, they could be locations. In my case, these are separate locations, separate retail stores. Then under schedule, you would see the various templates that have been built for the various positions inside of the work group. So in my case, I have assistant manager AM and PM. I have several different shifts for baristas. I have several different shifts for cashiers and several different shifts for the food counter. Once I've selected one of those shifts, the next button over is apply. So in this case, I've got assistant manager AM. And I know that looks like I need somebody on Wednesday to open the store. So I'm going to go ahead and apply that shift to Phillips. And there is his shift. It is that easy to assign a shift to a person. If you have this selected and then you need to change a shift, so I have that set up for 5:30 to 2 p.m. If I would like to make this one, just this one, a custom one, I can select customize times and I can change that. So maybe I know I don't need him in until 7:30. And then I click Save. It's not going to actually show anything different here, but if I go ahead and say I want him to come in here because he's going to be a backup for Peggy on Thursday, and I click Apply, it's going to use that customized time that I just put in. So it's really easy to kind of manage your schedules. Even if you've got them applied out into the future, you can change them really easily. The next one is the week that you're looking at. So in this case, we're looking from the 19th out to the end of the week. So if I want to change that, I can just jump ahead, I can jump backwards. If I've changed my view from weekly to 2 weeks, let's say, I've still got this starting on the 26th, so now it's going to go out into May. So it's really simple to change what you're looking at and what you're accessing. If you want to take everything that's on your screen and move it ahead to another week, for instance, you can use this button, which is Select All. Now, all of your Excel shortcuts also work on this. So if you're more comfortable with Control A, Control C, Control V, Control X, you can use all of those shortcuts. In addition, you can actually right-click on any shift to get those things right at your mouse. So there's 3 or 4 ways that you can get through most of the things inside of our system. In our case, we're going to go ahead and select all, and we're going to copy those. So we'll go ahead and use the icons here. So here's my copy icon. It shows that I've copied 234 schedules. So now I want to go out to my next view. I can still see my preferences that my employees have put in. So in this case, yellow means that this person dislikes to work. This red alert indicates that that person can't work that day. So I've gone ahead and copied all of those. I can go ahead and just go ahead and paste these. Now, this is going to put everything that I just pasted up into the very top bar, which is my open shifts. The reason it did that is because I do have that pinning feature turned on, but I didn't have any schedules actually pinned to any employee. So it's slotted everything up into my open shifts. So I have a couple of ways I can resolve this. This little folder indicates that there are multiple schedules inside of this open shift pile here. So I can double click this and it's going to show me here are all your open shifts, and in fact I have 2 pages worth of them. Okay, and so for each one of those I could come over here underneath the employee where it says open shift. I can click this. It's going to show me everybody who's available to work that. I could select a person and go ahead and save it, and it's going to assign the shift to that person. Another way I can do it is you'll see here under the open shift line this little icon right here that says auto assign open shifts. Some people like to use this, some don't, but this will look at all the shifts that are available and all the hours worked and the candidate ordering for each one of these shifts and each one of these people. And if I click that, I can say, yes, I want to use my standard candidate order. These are the days I'm going to fill. Go. And it is going to auto-populate all of those shifts out to the best fit employee for each shift. So there's, like I said, a couple different ways you can do it. You can assign the shifts individually. You can auto-assign them. Once they're out on the schedule, if you say, oh, yeah, this person shouldn't work that day, it will actually, you can actually just drag and drop it, okay? So you can still manipulate it after it populates everything out onto the various employees. And so it's taking a little while because remember that was 230 something schedules. So it is going through the best fit candidate order line for each one of those, and it has now assigned those out. Now you can see there's still a couple up here that were listed as open shifts. And that's because down in my food section, maybe I don't have anybody that's available on that particular day. Okay, so maybe I need to go, okay, let's look at everybody that isn't, this is a secondary work group for them. Now we can see down here my little foodie people. Now you can see I actually have somebody working in each one of these things, and Sally Draper has actually been slotted as a cashier for that day. So she's my normal other food person. Now if I want to, I can actually take this shift. I could actually move that shift to an open shift and bring this one back down onto her, or I can just actually drag that one up to the open shift box. Okay, so now you can see the folder that says that there are multiple schedules there. If I right click that and I say who can work this, it's going to show me, okay, for that cashier shift, here are all the people that could work that. Now I know that Sally Draper I'm going to be assigning to that food shift, so I'm actually going to say, nope, I am going to assign this to Mona. Now you can also see a couple different things here. Bert dislikes working that time, so it's going to show you that. Megan actually can't work this time, so she's actually going to be red, and it's going to tell you, no, you can't assign it to her. So in this case, what I'm doing, rather than assigning it, this is going to allow me to send an email or a text message to Mona and say, hey Mona, I've got a shift open, would you like to pick it up? If I just want to assign it to her, then I could double click it and say, okay, for this cashier one, I'm actually going to assign this to Mona. And then for the food one, I know I wanted to assign that to Sally, so I'm going to go ahead and assign that to her. I click Save and Close, and now both of those have disappeared from my open shift box and have been assigned out to the individual employees. So it's really easy to assign the shifts. We have drag and drop. If Harry says, oh, I can't work that day, and Pete Campbell can, you can just drag it from him and put it up on Pete, and that schedule has been reassigned. Except Peter Campbell cannot work in that specified position. So in this case, Harry Crane is a barista and he can work the food counter, and this is a food counter shift. So at this point I'm kind of stuck. I don't have anybody else that can work this except perhaps Megan. But she's also already got a I don't like to work after 3 p.m. that day. So it's not going to let me schedule her either. So you can see how it's going to alert you if somebody can't work. It's going to alert you if it's a position that they can't work in. So it's a really comprehensive way to schedule the employees. But again, it's got that drag and drop capability. It's really easy to assign shifts. Again, you can just say, all right, who can work this one? And it's going to show you who can work it. If you double click it, it's going to let you just assign it right from that screen. So again, it's super easy to manipulate and work through these so that you can assign those schedules. Okay, so what's actually in a schedule? If you'll see when I mouse over that with the tooltip that pops up, it's going to show you the work group, the name of the shift, the start and the stop time, the position that they're working in, and the total hours for that shift. If I double click that shift, it's actually going to allow me to schedule a lunch and add a lunch duration if I need to. I can change the color of the shift if I want to, and then I can move it to open, or I can pin it to that particular employee because I do have that functionality turned on. I can add a note to that shift. So maybe on this one for Harry, I can say, clean the espresso machine, because it's, maybe gets done every other day or something like that. So I can save and close. And now when Harry looks at this, he's going to see that note, clean the espresso machine. Okay, so it's really easy to kind of manipulate each of the individual schedules. You may have noticed as we were assigning shifts that down here at the bottom, we have total hours and we have overtime hours. So in this case, I've got 516 total hours, and then it's going to show me my total hours for each of the days for that particular work group. If anybody were into overtime, it's going to flash those as red. They're very obvious. And if anybody goes over their max hours threshold, it's also going to show me that. So in this case, let's go ahead and play with Ken here. So Ken's a barista. So let's go ahead and select a barista schedule. And we're going to go ahead and give him this lunch schedule. And so we're going to make him work lunch a lot of days here so we can get him over his threshold. So we're going to go ahead and apply that. And he needs one more apparently. And one more. Okay, there we go. So you can see how that turned his number red there. So his threshold is 25 hours, and now we have him scheduled for 28. It is not going to prevent me from scheduling him over that. You know, the manager always has approval of whether or not they can go over their threshold, whether it's a part-time employee or a full-time one. But if I don't want him to work on one of those, I can say, well, let's go ahead and take this breakfast shift and let's move it up to Peter Campbell. So now I've adjusted his hours back below his threshold, and I've given Peter that shift just like that. It's that simple. So it's really easy to manage. If somebody has, calls in sick, you can just move their schedule to someone else. If if they call in sick and give you enough notice, you can just let it go ahead and be a text alert, or you can actually call them and say, can you work this, and then assign it to them. So it's really, really simple to, manage your call-offs, manage any shift changes that are necessary. So another feature you might want to look at is your scheduler and the coverage view. So when you're looking at the schedule view like this little yellow block in the middle of their schedule indicates that that's their scheduled lunchtime. So you can make sure that you've got coverage for each of the lunches. This is showing you everybody that's scheduled. This is showing you that you have an open shift right here. So this schedule here, this 11 to 7 p.m. is actually not assigned to anybody. And then you have employees without schedules down here at the bottom. So if you want to assign this to somebody, we could actually drag this down and we'll say, okay, we can see that Ken Cosgrove is available as a barista, so let's go ahead and put this on him. But it's actually applied the schedule to him. You can see that you've got coverage for your lunches. So if you need to, if you find, oh, I do have a hole, you can actually create schedules right from here. So if you know you need Doc Harmon to come in early to open the store, you can just drag and drop a schedule right on him. You can name it if you need to. You can add a lunch if you need to. And it's still going to let you assign which position it's for, in this case assistant manager, because that's the only job that he can work. And when I click save, that's going to pop him up here opening the store with Peggy. So it's really, really simple even in the coverage view to go ahead and manipulate. We do have a daily view in this Gantt chart format, and you can customize this and change the colors as required. Preference schedules also show in this view, so if you do have somebody, like in this case, you can see that Peggy, she has this yellow up here, which means that she does not like to work in the afternoon. So in that case, if you tried to move it over there, it's going to tell you she doesn't like to work there. You can drag and drop shifts here. You can add budget bars that will allow you to ramp up during busy hours. So for restaurants or retail, that would be something that would be very valuable. Okay, another view that's popular is Schedule All. So this is going to show you for your particular work group where everybody's working. So you can see who's the manager, who's the assistant manager, who's the cashiers, who are the baristas, and who are the food. So we can group this, depending on what works for your particular organization. You'll also see that open shifts are big and bold and red, so they're really simple to see where you have holes that need to be filled. You can't edit shifts from inside this view, but you can reassign them or move them to open shifts. So if we click on that one, I'll be able to see who can work that. I can see that, Megan has this many hours until her next shift, and it's been that many hours since her previous shift, and she has 8 hours remaining in her maximum hours. But she also prefers to work this time. So that's why she's at the top of the list, because she has a preference that she likes to work in the morning. Now, Harry Crane, you can see he's got 24 hours remaining, so he hasn't had as many hours as Megan, so maybe you want to give him that shift. And then you can also see here that Ken Crosgrove already has too many hours scheduled. So we'll go ahead and give that shift to Harry. And so you see that open shift disappeared, and now Harry Crane has that shift. So you can reassign schedules right from inside the schedule all view. It's really, really simple. The other view we have is the calendar. So this is going to show you the full month and where everybody's scheduled at that point in time. It'll show you again, open shifts are red, so they're really easy to see. You can click on those and assign from this screen. So if you say, all right, well, let's go ahead, well, Bert really likes that time, we'll go ahead and give it to Bert. And you select, it'll refresh the data. That shift has now been assigned to Bert. The open shift is no longer there. If in this particular view, if you actually want to see where a specific person is working, you can have it in what we call highlight mode, and you could select that person. So let's go ahead and select Bert, and it's going to highlight his name. If you want to filter it, you can actually click that, and it's just going to show you just Bert and where he's working. In the highlight view, if you wanted to see, maybe Bert and somebody else don't get along. So you can again select that second person and highlight and see if you have them working the same shifts together. Or maybe they are people who get along a lot and you want them to work together. So you'll be able to filter that and make sure that you're kind of making everybody happy with those. All right, so let's jump over here. I'm going to show you the employee perspective really quick. So again, they have to have a login and a password and their company code. Once they've logged in once, if they bookmark this, the company code will stick. Then they're going to go ahead and sign in. And this is what the employee sees. Not necessarily this orange color. I have actually selected a particular color scheme for this particular employee. But they will see the calendar view. In this case, she's already had time off that was approved, but because it's in the past, it's grayed out. And then what her shift is for this week. Since we haven't published for next week, she can't see that yet. Okay. So she has the options here to drop shifts, pick up shifts. She can see messages. She can look at her requests. So if we click pick up shift, if there were any open shifts available that she qualified for in her work group, she would be able to see those here. Okay. If she wanted to drop a shift, she would click the day and go ahead and click drop. But because this is today, she can't drop it because we've set a threshold that she can't drop a shift within a certain number of hours. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at the profile. So some of the profile settings can be modified by the employee. Some of them cannot. Once I look at this, it's going to show me what's entered for me. So for instance, if I say I actually want to edit something here, I can say change profile. And it's going to give me a very limited set of fields that I can change. But it will show me everything that has been set up, including what picture has been assigned to me. But you can see the employee can change their mobile phone and mobile carrier. They can add a secondary phone number. They can send a test SMS message to themselves. They can add an email, and they can select who can see their phone number and their email. So they may only want whoever's working the schedule to see it. They may not mind if their work group associates see it, or they can select it so that everybody in the company can see it. Okay. So also under here is notifications. These can be potentially edited by the employee depending on the permissions that have been set up. In this case, the employee has said that when the schedule is published, they want to get a text message. When a shift has been added, modified, or removed from their personal schedule, they want to get an email and a text. But in this case, if an open shift becomes available, she wants to get an email and a text because she likes picking up hours. Okay? And then she actually has a text message daily reminder that's coming out to her at 6 o'clock each morning telling her what her shift is for that particular day. And so that time change can be set by the employee so that they can get the reminder as early or late as they would prefer to get it. So let's go ahead and look at user settings. I don't think I have anything in there. I can change my password. I can change my username. As far as schedule preferences, if I click on this, it's going to let me see what's currently set up for me. But if I want to change those preferences, let's say I was working a second job on Friday nights, but now I'm not. I can come up here and select I don't care and take that away. But let's say now I've started taking piano lessons on Tuesday nights. So I don't ever want to work after 4 p.m. on Tuesdays. And then, I have to practice both the day before and the day after, so now I don't like to work either of those evenings. I can go ahead and save that. That's going to send a notification to the manager that my preferences have changed. The manager will go in from their side to approve or deny that change request. And I can actually change this. So for students or people who are working second jobs or people who do things, extracurricular activities, they can actually set up how often this repeats so that they can, if it's a student that has classes Mondays and Wednesdays, but then the new semester starts and now their classes are Tuesdays and Thursdays, they can actually select how often this rotates through. Couple other things they can do in here. If I click coworkers, I can see my other coworkers, and I can select all work groups, or I can select just my work group. If I select just my work group, I will only see people that can work at the same location that I can work at. Now in this case, with the stars across, that either means that the employee does not have a phone number or email added, or they've blocked me from seeing it and only the scheduler can see it. In this case, Megan's the only one that's allowing her phone number to be seen, so I could call her if I wanted to talk about, maybe she could take a shift for me or I could take one for her. The Schedule All view is going to show the person, based on the positions that they're allowed to work, everyone who's working, during the month or during the week. So in this case, my schedules are all bolded. But I can also see that Herman has a couple of shifts in there, and he's actually working with me on this particular day. So it's going to let me look at, who's working with me when. Okay, so that's pretty much it for the employee. Again, it's pretty easy. They can see their work group assignments. In this case, I can only work at the Hilliard location. It's a pretty basic view for them. There's not a whole lot they can do in there. If they do have pending requests, it'll show up here. If they want to look at individual requests for picking up and dropping shifts, they would look here. Okay, so we're going to jump back over to the manager view really quickly. And now you'll notice that in my alert bars here under preference change requests, I actually have a number, which indicates there is one that I need to look at. So I can see, oh, Peggy Olson's requested a change, so let me go ahead and view this. She doesn't want to work on Monday evenings or Wednesday evenings. Oh, and she can't work on Tuesday evenings, but she really likes to work Monday mornings and Thursday mornings. Well, okay, that's fine with me. If I want to show, so this is what she currently has. So I'm not showing the pending. Now I want to see the pending. So I can see exactly what she changed. And then I can either approve or decline this. So if I approve it, I can put a note in there. If I decline it, I can put a note in there. And I can click OK. And now that change request has been managed. All right. I think we've really covered kind of the basic high-level functionality of the system. Again, it's really flexible, it's really scalable, it's easy to use. Once we get your work groups and your positions set up, and we'll show you how to build those individual schedule templates. It's really simple to go out and assign the schedules, manage where people are working, manage your call-offs, and manage any change requests that need to happen. We do have, again, the employee trade board, so the employees can come in and bid on open shifts, and the manager can decide from the list who's the best fit for that job. So it's really, really simple. I hope you've enjoyed this. If you have any questions, please talk to your sales representative and they will get back to you with the answers. Thanks so much and have a fabulous day.